and one of those hubs will be a People's Climate March Arts Hub that we are the host of and can put whatever information we want on, with a calendar of events, with the opportunity for there to be a blog and photos and links to external web-based projects that people all over the country will be coming to see. So that's something we should talk about in this room. Now we're going to enter dates coming up. I'm going to stand here because it will feel less awkward. Next month there's a whole series of more of these, okay, so how are we going to piece this together kind of meetings happening. On July 1st, there's a citywide town hall. There was actually one last month, I didn't mention that, of 250 different representatives from groups in New York City getting together to talk about outreach primarily, and who else needs to be involved in the organizing. And so they're going to meet again on July 1st, and that will be mostly working in constituency-based breakout groups. There are going to be 20 different breakout groups. They approached me and were like, hey, do you want to have an artist breakout group? And I'm scheming, I think, and I'm interested in any of your opinions about this, that we should maybe actually try to have, this is a moment to reach out and say artists are all different constituencies. What would it be like to have an artist in every one of those breakout groups saying like, hey, how does art relate to what you do? That only works if we've got 20 artists there on July 1st, so let's all talk. July 10th, there's another planning meeting, the Mobilization Clearinghouse, which is focused on not just the one day, but what other kinds of actions are going to get planned in that week to turn into an experience that people are going to want to come around the country and around the world for. And that's the Graduate Center. What time is it?
7 p.m.
Our friends at System Change Not Climate Change are helping pull that off, and I didn't find a time, so I put a blank spot there. On July 31st, we're going to have one last, hopefully really epically gigantic SPORATORIUM, maybe at the Brooklyn Museum, or at another large arts-oriented institution. We're visioning around that to try to bolster in before stuff starts to get really hit the ground, lots of different kinds of cultural workers. Leading to, on August 2nd, a mobilization art fabrication space is opening, and we're still zoning in on where that's going to be. It's looking like we're going to have a big, beautiful space in Bushwick that will be open every day and have materials and staff and internet and people bottom lining different kinds of creative projects in collaboration with different parts, different constituencies in the organizing to make the lead up to March and the March itself super beautiful and transformative. That will be open for people to come, and there will also be trainings there with the Record Society to learn more about, and family build days, and folk building, and all sorts of amazing things participated there. What? Materials. And there'll be a lot of donated materials available to artists there. So that will be going on through the People's Climate March. The next date we have is that September 16th, the UN comes to town. There are some emerging different events planned for between the 16th and the People's Climate March, but we're not going to go into the details there, and I think July 10th is where a lot of that's going to get worked out for the first time. September 21st is the People's Climate March, and September 23rd is the one-day UN Summit, and September 24th we all go home and sleep. So where do artists fit into all of this, right? I think we could move through all of these things. Do you want to? Oh yeah. So we're going to pause with that question where artists fits on all of it, because the Climate Justice Alliance in town are really lucky to have Sharon with us here today to talk a little bit about the organizing that's going on there. You want to take it off? Can everybody hear me from here?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, again, it's nice to meet everybody. Again, my name is Sharon, and I work for the Record Society, and we're a member of the Climate Justice Alliance. I saw a lot of nods when I mentioned the Climate Justice Alliance, and it sounds like a lot of people already know who we are. We call ourselves CJA mostly, so when you hear CJA, you'll know we're referring to the Climate Justice Alliance. The Climate Justice Alliance is an alliance of over 35 grassroots organizations based here in the United States, and our membership includes the Indigenous Environmental Network, which represents 55 indigenous communities in North America. It includes organizations like Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, Communities for a Better Environment in California, Eastern Michigan Environmental Action Council in Detroit, as well as UPROS, NEJA here in New York City, right? So we're a broad alliance of community organizations, who came together under a long process of alignment to really find our place together, really kind of coming out of the previous UN summits. So, within our alliance, we have a lot of environmental justice organizations and a lot of organizations who have really been at the forefront of this fight on climate, right, and who have been saying a lot of things that we're just starting to hear now from kind of larger organizations, right, but have been saying that for years and years. So CJA is really excited about this opportunity, and I think as all folks are really seeing this as an opportunity, and I think we're looking at kind of three kind of big goals in terms of our participation in this kind of entire spectrum of activities, right? The march, but also beyond. I think first and foremost to really put the voices of impacted communities, frontline people of color, working class white communities who we really feel, who we know hold the solutions, right, to these big grappling questions on climate change, right? And so we want to put those voices kind of front and center in all of this activity and really highlight the solutions that they bring forward in this space. We also want to continue to expand the base among climate justice organizations, environmental justice organizations, grassroots organizations, and also to build a broader alignment among the entire climate movement, right? So to build a better alignment with large national environmental organizations, as well as other sectors of the movement. We have strong relationships with labor and other sectors of the movement, really looking at intersectionality, right? So for us, climate justice is more than just weather, right? It's not just that, but it's really about the intersections of all of the different fights, and how they all feed into the current crisis that we're living in, right? So CJA has been talking nationally, and we're definitely going to be mobilizing people and bringing them here to New York, as well as mobilizing people in our own communities to continue to do actions and do action in conjunction with this summit. And as Rachel said, we've been here kind of meeting and assessing plans, and so CJA is definitely, planning on taking part in this march, as well as assessing other actions and activities that reinforce the local campaigns of our local partners here. So we really want to use this as an opportunity to beef up the local work and really get them some of those critical wins that they've been fighting for, right? So we're really going to try to throw all of our weight behind them. And Ruckus Society is a direct action training and support organization. We work most directly with grassroots frontline organizations beyond just the climate movement, right? We've just come out of a long relationship with the migrant rights movement, with the National Day Labor Organizing Network, and other folks like that. We are a capacity building organization, and so our way of working is to build capacity within the organizations and in the movements that we work with, right? To build the leadership, to build direct action capacity, to build know-how, to be able to take this work on themselves, right? So really kind of trying to be the anti-parachute kind of thing, right? So we're really excited about the opportunity that this summit and this time creates for all of us in terms of really expanding the capacity of all of our movements. And so to that end, through the Climate Justice Alliance, and hopefully in conjunction with some of you all, we want to launch a couple of trainings, including a couple of training for trainers to really, support people in kind of building their training capacity, but also with the right message of what is climate justice, what is it really about, right? And to ensure that our kind of movements are talking in a unified way. We're looking at hopefully doing a training for trainers for artists, so really to be able to support artists in sharing their skill with a lot of our folks who are really thirsty and are really asking for this, right? So not only are they interested in creating beautiful visuals and things that will tell their stories throughout the march and throughout these actions, but also, building their own capacity on the inside to be able to execute and teach their own memberships these mediums. And so through affiliate artists that we work with throughout the United States, and like I said, hopefully in collaboration and with much respect to those of you who are from here, we really want to build with folks in just expanding that capacity in a good and a beautiful way. And so, yeah, I just wanted to come here and connect and kind of say, hey, we're CJA, and this is kind of how we roll in, and we're really excited about all the capacity that's being mobilized, and much love and respect to all of the local folks here who are holding it down, and we really want to come in with a spirit of collaboration and a spirit of really putting the messages of our folks, those really most impacted by climate change, really at the front and center of everything that is going on, right? And we're working with movements internationally. A lot of our international friends are starting to ask us about what's going on. We've got indigenous movements from throughout the world, right, that are possibly going to be mobilizing here in association with the World Conference on Indigenous Peoples. A lot of people really interested in kind of coming and bringing their voice to this space. So just really excited to be working with all of you. You can find the Climate Justice Alliance online. We just recently launched a campaign called Power, which is really about looking at communities who hold the key to a transition away from extractive economies into what we call local living economies. So if you look up Our Power Campaign, it's either ourpower.org or ourpowercampaign.org, I don't remember. But if you do a search for Our Power, it'll tell you a lot more about who the climate justice is, what our principles are, and kind of, what the platforms and the visions for just transition really look like from us. So yeah, just appreciate you all giving me this time and space, and yeah, thank you so much. I look forward to working with all of you.
So what I was thinking before, and this is something that I think a lot now doing this work, is that all of the things that we're planning, envisioning could happen, and nothing could change, right? Or all the things that we're planning on happening could feel like the beginning of something really different in how we in the United States talk about the climate movement, right? Or talk about climate change. I think this is a circle of people that would agree with me that one really critical piece of how that happens is around what the culture is that contains the events that are happening, and that artists, creative workers are part of what that is. And so what I think is powerful about this room of people is three things. Like, one, we're all artists, and two, we're grassroots artists, right? Like, I mean, maybe some of you are famous, and I don't really know. But we're gonna get some kind of like celebrity culture, celebrity endorsement, and that's important for what's going on. But I think that also we have the power to assert in this moment that, like, as cultural workers who are based in New York, us all working together is what's going to make this feel like a real transformative, nuanced, complex moment that encompasses all of the complexities and difficulties and injustices of the climate movement that we don't know how to talk about right now a lot of the time. The third thing we have is that we're all in New York, and that the world is coming here believing that New York, having just experienced Sandy, and as a major cultural icon of the United States, is a key, important place to be a leader in climate organizing. And so we're all New Yorkers here, and we have that power too. So I think that the networks that we're building of New York grassroots cultural workers are like nothing less than critical to pulling off what needs to go on in the next couple of months. I'm excited about this and also a little bit scared because, like, internally the stakes feel really high. So I wanted to talk a little bit about name some things that are probably obvious in a lot of our minds, but so that we all have them on the same page about what the goals of cultural worker in this moment and what our tactics are for it. So the two goals as I see them is, one, that we have to change the face of the climate movement. As Varun was talking about this, we have to expand who we think of when we think of people who care about climate change. We need to understand the nuances of the messaging. I think often we are stuck in a narrative where we say that climate change, the goal of fighting climate change is to make sure that things don't change, right? Because the climate doesn't change. But in fact, and I'm quoting Naomi Klein here a little bit, we know that the climate is changing, right? And also, even if it wasn't, like, we know that things have got to change, right? So in fact, we know that everything is going to change, and the question is who has the power to determine what that change looks like. And so what we're saying is we have the power to determine what that change looks like. The UN isn't going to, they're not changing anything. The question of that we have to ask ourselves first is how do we create the political will to get there, to get to the point where we are the people who have the power to make change. And there's no movement in history where gigantic mobilizations haven't been part of that story. So that's what we're doing. The second goal we have is to build relationships, right? To build things that last. And I think it's no accident that a lot of people said, like, I'm here and I see faces from Occupy, and that feels good because that was a moment where a lot of us built new relationships. And I think that artists are particularly good at doing this. Showing up with our whole selves to the work, right? Not just thinking with our brain and not just like being mechanic, but connecting all different parts of what it is to be a human who's organizing. And I think that we need to model that relationship building to build the kind of movement that we need. Because that's how we build social movements, and also because that's how we're going to survive in a city that is impacted by climate change, right? Like, we're going to have whole, real, trusting relationships with each other, because the Farmer's Almanac says there's going to be a storm like Sandy in September this year, and if not this year, then another year, right? So the two kind of big parts of how we make, I'm thinking right now, or one way we could break out how we reach those goals is we make the climate change seem important, right? We do in the lead up. We do the cultural work to make this seem like more than just a march. And then we make the mobilization itself awesome, right? And by awesome, we mean like fun and also like awesome, where we understand the breadth of what it is that we have to do. That means we need to make things that are like simple and snappy, and we also need to do the work ourselves to understand I keep saying the word complexity, but to challenge ourselves to whatever our understanding of climate change is, to like go deeper and learn more and train ourselves and train each other, because we don't have the language that we need right now to talk about climate. And I think we're some of the people who are in a place to innovate that in this moment. So enough of me, blah, blah, blah. The biggest goal we have in this moment is to get projects going, right? Every tiny little thing that we make is part of the cultural container that's going to make this happen. And I think more important than figuring out the perfect project is that we all have to start making commitments about how we're going to be involved and prepare ourselves to commit time and energy and our hearts to the work ahead. So Becca's going to kind of lead us through